Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how you can use Excel to figure out credit card balances, minimum payments, finance charges, that sort of thing. So if you are sort of maybe an Excel novice, you're not very comfortable with Excel, you might want to actually watch the basic demo instead. This is going to be the advanced demo. This shows you some pretty cool kind of Excel tricks. And what you might want to do if you're really interested is go ahead and watch the basic demo, make sure that that makes sense, and then come back here and watch the advanced demo. So the advanced demo is going to show pretty much the same thing. We'll do different numbers just so we can see something different. But I'm going to show you guys how to do some locking of Excel cells and some other kind of cool things. So you'll notice with the basic demo, it was set up slightly differently. I didn't have these things over in G and H. What I have over here is kind of like a controller panel, okay? So I'm going to make it really, really easy for us to change the balance, the APR, and the minimum payment in our formulas. So the first thing I want to do though is go ahead and fill in my months. So if you've already watched the basic demo, you should be comfortable with this. But if I fill in months 1 and 2, I'm going to get really tired of typing all of these values. So I can use Excel to actually do this for me. So if I highlight the 1 and 2, Excel is going to know that I have a pattern where I'm just counting by 1. So if you go to the bottom right corner until you get this kind of solid plus sign and you click and you drag, it starts to add values for you. Now I'm going to do this for 10 years, so 120 months. So I'm just going to drag this down for a minute until I get to my 120, and then I'm going to let it go. So then I didn't have to type all of that, which is really nice. Now, in the previous video, I put the beginning balance here, and then I used a formula for the finance charge and the minimum payments, as well as the new balance. But over here, I want to do something a little bit different, which is to go ahead and type my balance, my APR, and my minimum payment in cells H1, H2, and H3, and then I'm going to use those cells over here for my formulas. So I can put whatever I want as my beginning balance. It doesn't really matter. Let's just start with $500, okay? One thing you'll notice right away, this is not formatted as a dollar sign, so if you go up here to the top, yours again is going to look a little bit different if you're using a Windows computer, because this is a Mac, so Excel looks slightly different. Then I'm going to select the little dollar sign, and then it changes it to accounting mode, which looks really nice. It has a dollar sign, and it's rounded to 2 decimal places. I'm going to go ahead because I want all of these to be dollars as well. I'm going to highlight all of my cells and change that to accounting mode as well. Okay, now I'm going to type my APR here, and when I type it, I'm going to enter it with the percent sign in there, because then Excel knows if I want to multiply it, it needs to change the percentage into a decimal. So let's say we have an APR of 19.99%. All right, so I'm just going to type it with the percent sign and hit enter. And same idea with the minimum payment. Let's say we have a minimum payment of 5%. Okay, so these are the values I'm going to use. And what we'll see is, let's say you wanted to use a different value, wanted 5,000 instead of 500, it would be very easy to change just this one value, and then everything else will populate. So we can see that at the end. So instead of actually typing the value here, I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to have Excel reference this cell right here, the beginning balance. So it just references the $500 and it goes ahead and puts it there. So now if I change this value, it's going to change this one as well. Now, in order to calculate a finance charge, I'm going to type equals in Excel, and then what I want to do is I want to take my beginning balance, and I want to multiply by my APR, but that's an annual percentage rate, so this is monthly, so I need to divide by 12, and it calculates a finance charge of $8.33. Now, my new balance is going to be found by taking my beginning balance and adding my finance charge. And then my minimum payment is going to be found, I have to type an equal sign again, but it's going to be found by taking my new balance, which is the $508.33, and multiplying by the minimum payment, which is my 5%. So that's going to be that right there at $25.42. Now I need one more formula for my beginning balance of the next month, and that would be found by taking equals in Excel, and then you take your new balance and subtract your minimum payment. All right, so now at this point I have formulas set up for beginning balance, finance charge, new balance, and minimum payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything down, and then a couple of things are not going to look quite right. So we're going to go back and fix them, and I'll show you why they are the way that they are. So first thing I want to do is I want to copy this formula all the way down. So I go to the bottom right corner of this cell and I just double click, and you'll notice it comes up with dashes. This is okay. This is not an issue. I'm going to do the same thing for finance charge and new balance and minimum payment, even though a couple of these things are not going to quite look right. But we'll see that in just a minute. All right, so if I double click on all of this, you'll see I'm getting a lot of blank cells, which indicates that something is not quite right. So if we click through our formulas, finance charge here, if we take a look, we want our finance charge to always reference this APR here. But what's happening as I drag this formula down is that it continues to move this H cell. Okay, so up here I was referencing H2, and when I copied it down, then it starts referencing H3, H4, H5. I do not actually want it to do that. What I want to do is I want the finance charge to always reference cell H2. So what I need to do in Excel is I need to lock it in place. And in order to lock something in place in Excel, what you do is you actually use dollar signs. Okay, so that's going to lock things in place. So I want H2 to always be referenced for the finance charge. So what I need to do is I need to lock H2 in place. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of H. That locks me in that column. And then if I put a dollar sign in front of the 2, it locks me in that row. So now H2, when I go up here and I recopy this all the way down, so I double click here, now these look much better. So if I look here, all of these are still referencing H2, which is exactly what I want. So Excel knows to not modify that H2 cell. That one has been locked in place. Now, at this point, new balance looks okay because that's just subtracting the beginning minus the finance charge, but my minimum payment is still messed up, so I need to go and fix that. So if you look here, I always want to take my new balance and I always want to multiply by this 5% or whatever is in cell H3. So I need to lock cell H3 in its place, so I'm going to use that dollar sign trick again. So I'm going to put a dollar sign in front of the H and a dollar sign in front of the 3. And now that locks me in H3. So now when I go and I need to recopy these formulas down, now everything looks much, much better. If you notice, my finance charges are decreasing, my minimum payments are decreasing, and my balances are decreasing, just like they should. So I'm going to do something similar to what I did in the basic demo, which is to add a total amount paid over here, just because this is an interesting thing to look at. So after the first month, the total amount that was paid was just the $25.42. After the second month, we've paid the $24.55 plus the $25.42. After the third month, we've paid the $23.71 plus the $49.96, and so on. So I'm just going to copy this formula down, and we can see total amounts paid. So if you take a look here, our beginning balance was $500, and let's see, to pay $500, we're looking at about 32 months, so about 3-ish years. We've actually paid $500 out of our pocket, but if you look at the balance, we still have a $170 balance. And the reason for that is because we have paid so much in finance charges. Now, we're talking about a relatively small balance here. Now, here's kind of the cool part of this. If I go in and I change this, to $10,000, let's say you make a really big purchase, now we can see that our values all change, okay? So let's take a look at some of these things, and then let's change the APR and the minimum payment to see how that affects things. So I have $10,000, 19.99% APR. I make this charge on my card and I kind of just leave it there, and I make the minimum payment every month. So let's look after 10 years. I still owe $159 on my card, okay, which hopefully at this point I could pay off, but I have paid $14,645, even though my original balance was only $10,000, okay? So let's keep these numbers in our mind. $14,645 paid. Let's increase my APR now to 29.99%, so let's increase it 10%, and let's look at the same thing. If you look here, I had paid $14,000 previously. Now I paid $18,700. Before I only had about $100, 170 I think left on the card. Now I still have 421. So you can see how much APR actually changes things. Now, to make things even worse, if the minimum payment were lower, let's say only 3%, we're going to owe much, much more because we're making a much lower payment. So if you look here, after 10 years, we've paid almost $27,000 and we still owe $5,000 on the card, okay? That means we've paid $27,000 out of our own pockets on a $10,000 item, whatever we charged, and we still owe half of that back because our finance charges are so incredibly high. If you look at these finance charges, and this is a very large balance, so of course these are going to be large, but a $10,000 item finance charge, $250. That's just for 1 month, so it's very, very high. We can change this to something more reasonable. So $1,000, let's say you buy a $1,000 computer. If we look after 10 years for that, it's still pretty bad. We still owe half of what we originally had put on the card, so we still owe $500 out of our 1,000. But what actually came out of our pocket across those 10 years has been $2,600. Okay, so a lot of money. So you've paid $2,600. You still owe half of this. Okay, so now what we could do is we could drag all of these down a little further to see what continues to happen. So I'm going to take all of these formulas. Actually, I'm going to highlight two to make sure that it counts correctly for me. And if I highlight them all at once and then go to the bottom right corner, I can still copy down. So let's copy this down a little ways. Okay, so let's look for where we get to a $500, or sorry, a balance maybe that is close to our finance charge, which is going to be a long time from now. Let's see. Okay, so this is where it gets kind of scary. If we look, let's see, 298 months, that's almost 25 years. So after about 25 years, you would have paid $4,384 on your $1,000 balance, and you'd still have $180 left. Now your finance charge at this point is very low. It's only $4.50, but you've paid just so very much over the course of those years that really, I mean, if you look at the finance charges, you were paying about $25 a month to finance this in the beginning. Now it does decrease every month, and you'll see it decreases to a relatively small amount. But if you look at the total amount that's been paid, that includes all of your finance charges and all of your reductions to the balance, $4,300 for a $1,000 item. So it can get out of control pretty quickly. So anytime you have the ability to pay more than the minimum payment, if we increase our minimum payment here, we're going to see that things look a lot better. If we're able to pay maybe 7% of our value after 120 months, we would only owe $335. Okay, so we would have pretty much paid it off. Whereas before, only paying 3%, we still owed half of that value. Okay, we still owed $500. So you can see that increasing your minimum payment, it does increase what actually comes out of your pocket every month, but it's decreasing the balance by a much larger value. So you're paying much less in finance charges over the course of time. Now, you can avoid finance charges completely by paying your balance in full every month, and then you will not be assessed a finance charge. But it's just important to keep in mind that if you're not in a situation where you can pay the entire amount at the end of the month, that you're paying as much as you possibly can so that that balance is decreasing more quickly.